Chapter 2.11 Who to Trust. Retta arrived at Jimbo's hut, parted the doorway curtains, and a cloud of burning sage billowed out. Jimbo sat cross-legged inside, with his eyes closed as he meditated. He was at peace, yet attentive to Retta's footsteps as she entered. "Ah, hello there, Red." He greeted her as if expecting her. With an open palm, he welcomed her to a floor cushion in front of him. "Hey, Jimbo." After being attacked in the dead of night, she was suspicious of everyone on this planet. She scanned his hut, looking for any signs her assailant could be him. A mask, a cloak, weapons he could rip from the wall and attack her with, but there were none. It was a simple, modest hut, with some cushions, some leaves in the kitchen, and Jimbo meditating in the center. "Please, sit with me," he said, but Retta read it as, "Stop being so paranoid and just sit." "It's okay," she said, and refused to get too comfortable. "Vickery said I should talk with you. Someone attacked me last night." "Someone attacked you?" He seemed surprised. "What did they look like?" "Hard to tell. They had a mask, but they were bigger than me and were ready to wring my neck." She still felt her skin burn where their hands squeezed her throat. He stroked his chin and pondered. "Well, she sent you to the right place." He stood up, still in his meditative state, and turned around. "I have a talent for tracking people. Some say I could even find the missing Celeste Starlight if I wanted to." Jimbo name-dropped Celeste too casually. That felt planted, Red thought, like mentioning Celeste was intentional. Retta didn't respond. "Can I show you something?" "Sure." "This is a secret," Jimbo said and went to his thatched wall. "The villagers think I'm just very aware." "I think the word is paranoid," Red thought. "This is how I do it." His body blocked the mechanism he tinkered with, but suddenly the thatched wall opened, slid away, and revealed a hidden room filled with monitors. Each had different video feeds. One camera watched the canopy where Retta's ship crash-landed. Another watched the temple. Multiple cameras watched different residencies, including Zoto's home, and a last camera focused on the junk dog, hovering in space. The junk dog's still there, Retta thought. Tobias is still here. "What I found strange," Jimbo said, sitting at the computer terminal with his back to Retta, "was that last night I saw a skiff leave from that ship hovering in orbit." Jimbo scrolled through the footage, rewinding to the night before, and saw a skiff leaving the junk dog. It was Tobias' skiff. "I think I told you before, but Tobias is a man with a past, and I believe Vickery told you a lot of bad people are after that Baton." "Yeah," Retta said, standing directly behind Jimbo and leaning over his chair. She did. "I don't know where he is now," he continued, "but I can track him for you." "That'd be great. Thanks, Jimbo." "Would you like to stay here until then? I can hold onto the Baton for you, so he doesn't chase you." "Thanks, Jimbo, but it's okay. I can't exactly give you the Baton to look after anyway." "What do you mean?" She rolled up her sleeve and showed the tattoo of the Baton that formed on her forearm. Jimbo spun in his chair, craned his neck, cradled Retta's arm in his hand, and looked at the tattoo of the Baton. "What happened to it?" His voice changed. It was both confused and frustrated. "I don't know. Zoto said the Baton and I would become one, and I think this is what he meant." "Oh," Jimbo said, still looking down. As he did, the Baton glowed. It glowed red, ever so slightly red, and its light cast shadows across Jimbo's face, accentuating the creases of frustration across his brow. He tilted his head upwards, and his eyes met Retta's. "Jimbo," she asked, "what happened to your eye?" His eye was seared, blood red, and injured from where something stabbed him, where something red hot hit his eye. Her assailant. It was him. It was Jimbo. He was the one in the mask. He was her stalker the night before. "I'm sorry, Red," he said. "I didn't want to have to do this." Jimbo slid up the sleeve of his robe, revealed a link underneath, and tapped it against his terminal. Immediately, 2 metal panic doors slid shut and sealed them inside Jimbo's hideout. He squeezed Retta's arm, but she pushed away, kicked herself out of his grip, and stumbled backwards. "Damn it," she thought, and her adrenaline spiked as she twisted to find an escape. Did Vickery know? Did she set me up? It didn't seem like she did, which made it even worse. Neither Vickery nor her guards knew Jimbo had a secret bunker, and if Retta disappeared, they wouldn't even know where to look. Retta retreated with her back pressed against the wall, and she realized Jimbo's den went deeper than it seemed. Stairs were on her left, winding down to a hidden bunker below. Jimbo charged towards her, and Retta scurried down the stairs. She braced her hand against the wall as she ran down, and down below was a hidden, subterranean server room. Row after row of towering machinery lined the makeshift bunker, but she had no time to look. Jimbo was right behind her. Retta darted through the server rows. She twisted through the maze, found a spot in the back, and hid to collect her breath. "You've done this before," she reminded herself. "You can do this again." Jimbo's heavy footsteps came down and stopped at the entrance. Retta heard his heaving breaths as he rushed to find her. "Where is she?" She heard as loudly as if he was right beside her. "Where is that baton?" A sudden, overwhelming headache crushed Retta's forehead, as if a band squeezed her head like a tourniquet. She cringed, clenching her teeth and squeezing her eyes shut as she put a hand to her temple. "What the hell is this feeling?" she thought, the pain coming on like a crushing migraine. Her thoughts were hazy, filled with static, and somehow angry. "She's not getting away," she heard Jimbo through a static of anger and rage. "Get over here, Starlight!" Retta started hyperventilating. The visceral fury and adrenaline Jimbo felt was imprinting onto her. Her heart was racing, and when she opened her eyes, she saw the baton burning bright red on her forearm. "It's him," she thought. "I'm hearing him. I'm hearing his thoughts, feeling his anger." The tension squeezed at her temples as she absorbed his fury, failed to sever the connection, and had to handle his energy. "Stop, Baton. Stop," she thought, angry at her inability to control this crippling connection. "There you are!" Jimbo yelled. She twisted back and saw the bright, red glow of the baton reflected in his eyes. The baton's bright red light exposed her hiding spot. "God damn it!" She covered the baton with her hand and rolled away as Jimbo lunged at her. Retta dodged, slammed into a server, and darted through the labyrinthian server rows. She covered the baton's glow, but it was burning hot to the touch. Jimbo twisted to follow. "Don't touch my servers!" he thought. His anger spiked, and again Retta felt a crushing tension. Her adrenaline was spiking in sync with his, but she slowed her breaths, controlled herself, and adapted to absorb his emotions while keeping her cool. The servers, she thought, and felt them around her. His precious servers. She removed her hand from her tattoo, let the light shine, and instantly Jimbo noticed. "You're not hiding from me like that!" "I'm not trying to," Retta said, and stepped out from her hiding spot with a server wire in hand. Jimbo stopped in place. "Step an inch closer, I tear your servers apart," she said, tugging the wire taut to show she was serious. He stopped for a moment, then smirked. "You don't think I have a backup? If you did, then why'd you stop?" Jimbo's smile twisted into a grimace. "Your link," she said, holding out her hand. "Slide it to me." "Why?" "To unlock the doors upstairs. I saw you tap it. You give that to me, I go, we forget about this." Jimbo considered it. He reached for his link. Retta was ready, wire in hand, and as he gripped his link and slid off, he hit a secret button. The ground beneath Retta rumbled. She slid left, and 2 mechanical arms burst through the flooring. "Wrong move," Retta said, and ripped the wire from the server. The server lights powered down. The basement went pitch black, and the only light was Retta's glowing red baton. "Give me that baton!" Jimbo yelled and charged at Retta like a bull. He lunged forward, and Retta slid to his left, swept out his feet, and brought Jimbo to the ground with a satisfying slam that knocked the wind out of him. She grabbed the link from his wrist and ripped it off while he was dazed. She ran upstairs, rushed to his terminal, and tapped his link. Come on. The link's tap wasn't working. Come on! The connection between the terminal and the link initiated, and as it did, Retta watched her baton turn from red to blue-green, its glow growing brighter and brighter. What the hell? The door behind her slid open, and when she turned around, she came face to face with Tobias. What are you doing here? Retta asked as Alpha brought her snout up from the ground and wagged her tail at Retta. Alpha tracked your scent off this, he said, and tossed Retta's knife back to her. She'd lost it when Jimbo first assaulted her. You good? Yeah, I'm fine. Jimbo's downstairs, I know, Tobias said, needing little explanation. He paused for a moment, and a smirk crossed his face. I'm impressed. You managed to... Jimbo came up the stairs, wheezing for air, and saw Retta and Tobias standing together, with Alpha at their side, snarling and baring her fangs. Well, 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 Tobias said, his hands on his hips. Hey there, Jimbo. Tobias, he yelled, and as he stepped closer, Retta ignited her red laser knife and put its blade to Jimbo's terminal. Back off, or I wreck your tech. Tobias was impressed by Red. He smiled, nodded, and let Retta handle this herself. Please. Jimbo's eyes went wide, and he raised his hands in the air. No, please don't. I need that. I need it. Retta stayed silent and watched Jimbo squirm in her grip. I'm sorry, Jimbo begged. I'm sorry, okay? But that baton, it can change lives. It can change everything. The money they offered. Who? Luca, he... Jimbo was stuttering on his words. His boss, Luca, and his boss. They have a bounty out for the baton, but I can tell you everything. I know where they are. I can tell you about them. The Six. The Six? Retta wondered. I can tell you. Already got it, Jimbo, Tobias said, patted Retta on the shoulder, and stepped up by her side. He spun a link around his finger. Took your info last time I was here. Jimbo froze. His only bargaining chip was gone. Tobias turned to Retta. You did good on your own, Lil Red. She retracted the laser blade of her knife and pulled back. Don't follow us again, Retta said. I won't. I promise, I won't. Retta stepped away, her eyes still on Jimbo. Oh, don't worry, Tobias said and rested his hand on the terminal. Jimbo's eyes opened wide, and the metal claws of Tobias's glove flicked out. We know you won't. No, Jimbo whispered. No, Tobias, don't! Tobias dragged his claw blades through the computer. A spark of electricity shot out, and the power of the terminal disappeared in front of Jimbo's eyes. No! Jimbo screamed, rushing to his terminal, and ignored Tobias and Retta. Have fun on this little hermit planet alone, Tobias said, put his hands back in his pocket, and walked out of Jimbo's shack with Retta. They left together. Retta looked at her forearm and saw the warm, bright blue-green glow of the baton. Its light changed next to Tobias. She looked at him, and he looked at her. New tattoo? He asked. Yeah. It glows? Yeah, it does. Tobias's eyebrows raised. Huh. Weird. He looked forward. Better keep that a secret, 'cause you gotta know who to trust, Retta said, and finished his sentence. Hey, the girl's learning, he said with a hint of pride in his voice. He let the moment hang in the air for a moment, then added, Now the next thing you gotta do is learn to listen. Didn't I tell you to stay on the ship? She hesitated to respond. Yeah, we're gonna have a long talk when we get back. And speaking of which, where'd my extra skiff go? I crashed it. Tobias stopped walking and stared at Retta. For real? For real. Yeah, but I think the Sage is getting me another one. Yeah, well, don't crash this one now, Tobias said with a playful jab. Then you'll owe me 2. 2? Yeah, 2 ships, and that ain't even counting me saving your ass from Jimbo. Saving my ass? I did all the work. Sure, Lil Red, Tobias teased. Now go get that skiff. I'll meet you back on the ship. Tobias whistled, and Alpha followed, but she looked back at Retta with her ears perked up. Retta smiled at Alpha, and Alpha's jowls opened into a wide grin. Her tongue hung from her mouth, her tail wagged, and Alpha turned back to follow Tobias to the ship. Retta returned to Vickery at the temple, ready to collect what Zoto promised. The sage led her to the temple's thatched vine underside, where Retta originally tried to steal a ship. Workers were salvaging wreckage and attempted to repair a ship that fell into the water. It was the one Retta accidentally dropped into the sea. The sage shot Retta a dirty look. That was my ship, and fixing it should be your problem, Vickery said, continuing to walk until she revealed a larger ship with a cockpit resembling the knot of a tree. Its metal was wood-textured, its hull looked like a husk, and its wings jut out like the branches of the flooded city. But Zoto wanted you to have this. Retta was amazed at the beauty of it. She'd been used to junk buckets like the one Tobias flew. She wasn't ready for such an upgrade. He was never able to fly it, but he called it the Driftwood. Thank you, Vickery. Thanks, Zoto. Retta ran her hand along the hull until she reached the cockpit. It opened on cue for her, as if Zoto was there with her, welcoming her, and telling her, it's time to travel the stars. But she still had so much to learn. Retta looked back at the sage and said, I'm ready now. I want to know more about this Baton. As I said before, you will discover the Baton by discovering yourself, the same way your mother did. But where do I start? The brightest star. The sage pointed up, and Retta noticed that the thick canopy of trees thinned so that the night sky was once again visible. There they saw the great northern star, and the Baton will guide you to the right people along your journey. Retta thanked her and got into the ship. She looked once more at the tattoo of the Baton and the ink that spilled from it. She looked at the ghostly pale boy with his golden eyes, his sashed vines, and the whale beside him. Retta ran her fingers along the Baton, closed her eyes, and thanked Zoto. To the northern star she went.